Good morning. It's a little overcast today. It's Sunday, June 8th, and we're in downtown Baltimore. We're in Fells Point, one of the oldest, if not the oldest, of the Baltimore neighborhoods. And you can see the tugboat action already happening here in Baltimore's harbor. And some folks already out on boats. Hi, another space nut. Thanks for joining. It is, and I think you can see there's just a little bit of blue sky trying to peek through. So maybe we'll even get some sunshine after all. I'm standing on the Bond Street Wharf. Right on the harbor. And so you can see the wharf building here, which is kind of cool. And this little park. I've been to weddings here. It's a big, this little park area is a popular venue for weddings, especially like sunset weddings. And you can see from here the Broadway pier. We'll go over there and take a look. That was also formerly known as Recreation Pier. Nice. Well, enjoy your coffee. You can really see the history, both the history and today's seaport trade industry here in Baltimore, for sure. We got the ship, the Captain D, across the way. And if you can, you can barely see it, but the crane on the far left is hoisting up something from the Captain D. It's sand or salt or something. There, and piling it. Hello, Dakota. Nice to see you. This building here, directly in front of me, you can't see the sign from this direction. From other directions in Baltimore, you can see the big neon sign, which says Domino Sugar. Oh, that could be, that's stupid. That's probably what's being hoisted by the crane. I said sand or salt. It's probably sugar. That's the Domino Sugar factory. You know, and if you live in the United States, you get your boxes of blue and gold Domino Sugar. This is where it comes from in Baltimore. Hey, Galadorn. Hi, Dakota. Thank you for subbing. I appreciate that. And then further across the way, you see other other buildings. There are this pier here in front kind of obscures a little bit, but there are apartments and condominiums and homes mixed in with the industry on the other side of the harbor. Also on the other side of the harbor is the Baltimore Museum of Industry, the Visionary Arts Museum, Federal Hill, all kinds of attractions. So we're on the north side of the Baltimore harbor. Last week we took a look at Canton, and if you can see that kind of tall building in the center there, tall-ish, that's where we started last week, and we walked through the neighborhood of Canton. And today we're going to look at Fells Point, which is where we're starting right now today. On a pretty calm morning. You can see across the way, those terminals are Locust Point. And then further on, those big ships in a distance, that's Clinton Street in Canton. And then beyond these ships are the car carriers. Cars from all over the world come through the Port of Baltimore for then transportation across the country. So let's take a walk through the neighborhood, but we'll get a peek at the water as we go. Yes, I agree, another space nut. Industrial architecture has a, you know, it's quite beautiful. It's quite beautiful. And there's a few folks out today hanging out with the ducks and the geese. And that tugboat that was moving through when we started the video, just for a minute you saw it. It's perched there across the water. I don't know if you can see it beyond this pier. But let's go take a look at the neighborhood. Hi, Hawkins. I wouldn't go for a swim. It's a little too chilly. But the water is not as dirty as it used to be. When I was little, there were periods of time when this water was really disgusting. It's not bad now. And it's all from the storm drains. Our water runs off into the harbor. And now they have all these collection gadgets that collect all the muck and the trash that comes through. I can't speak for the trash here. Ugh. Visitors on a Saturday night. This place is a very popular spot on a Saturday night in Baltimore. And you'll see when we go through the neighborhood, you'll see all the bars and restaurants and the reasons why. I just love the way they've painted this. I don't know if historically, I'm sure there was some painting on this building that might have said Bond Street Wharf. I don't think it was that colorful though. So I think that's quite beautiful. Oh, that's not good, another space nut. I mean, the problem is it's water, it's rain. The rain has to go somewhere, but it carries along with it all of the trash from the sewers. Now, sewage, as in, wastewater from homes, does not get dumped into the waterways. That goes to treatment plants. So anything that's wastewater from homes, as well as industry, of course. Hi, Hawkins. Thank you for joining. Those go to treatment plants, but stormwater, rain, just goes into the harbor here. So I do want to point out a few things characteristic of Fells Point. I mentioned on a couple of walks the dangers of cobblestones. Fells Point is your cobblestone capital of Baltimore. So you have to be super careful crossing the streets. Also, you see the train tracks are still here. So the goods that came in through the Port of Baltimore were immediately loaded onto trains here in Fells Point, Baltimore, all the way to where we have the Dundalk Marine Terminal today. So there are some points in the streets where the train tracks are still there. Whether it's planned, as it looks like here, it looks like the brickwork is relatively new, incorporating the train tracks, or unplanned, where in some paved streets, the asphalt starts to wear away and sink down, and the train tracks pop up in just the right spot to catch you when you're riding your bike as a kid and you hit a train track and you go flying, as I did many a time here. So the main street here, well, there's a couple of main streets in Fells Point. This is this is Thames Street. Now, I say Thames, Thames, like the river in London. But most Baltimoreans say Thames Street, and for that I do apologize. We know it's not Thames, but it's a Baltimore thing. So when we walked through Canton and we talked about the characteristic historic row homes, we talked about the white marble steps. You won't find those too much here in Fells Point. Here, the entrances are not elevated. The front doors are usually right on street level, or maybe one step up. Some of these homes are not as old as they look. You have to look really closely at the brickwork to determine the difference. We're not going to go up this street. We'll go up another one where we can see a few examples. But here on Bond and Thames, or Thames Street, it's not too clear. It is kind of overcast, Adrian, but I'm hoping there is some sun that's going to peek through. So here on Thames or Thames Street, rows of pubs and bars. This is where you come to hang out for sure. But as you can see, if you can look beyond the shops on the first floor, you can see these are historic homes, and these are some of the oldest homes in Baltimore. Another space nut, it's a mix. It's a mix, and the way to tell, like an easy way to tell, is to check out the wear and tear on the brick. So if you see, kind of freshly pointed bricks, those were reproductions. But if you see the kind of worn, slightly off bricks, then they're older. Also, there are still some homes here with just a handful with wooden clapboards. But we'll take a look at some of those as well. So there we've got a really great historic sign, Ruckert Terminals at Brown's Wharf. So Ruckert is still in existence today, and the Ruckert Company, which manages the piers all the way to Canton, the Ruckert Company over 50 years ago wrote a book called Historic Canton, and it is the absolute Bible for historic study in the Canton and Fells Point area. It's a really fantastic resource, and for most families who still have family here, there are at least one or two of their relatives and ancestors who are referenced in that awesome book. Now we're heading up to what is reported to be the oldest continuously operating bar / pub / inn in Maryland, and one of the oldest in the United States. It's the Horseshoe Cayman On Saloon. It is a historic building. It's been featured in television shows and movies, probably most prominently Homicide: Life on the Street, a David Chase creation, which is a wonderful television show. It is probably very underrated and underviewed, but really an awesome television show about the Baltimore City Police Department Homicide Unit, starring the late, great Andre Brower. You'll also see through Fells Point interesting artwork. There's a collage of something over there, and baseballs hanging from the streetlights. Characteristic of Canton and Highlandtown are these, they're not on now, but these lights hanging over the neighborhoods, serving two purposes. It looks cool, and it also provides some safety. Hi, Michelle. Marlborough, Newport. No, this is Baltimore, Maryland. This is the Fells Point community of Baltimore, Maryland. It does have, Adrian, it has an Eastern European look, because that's, hey, good morning. And where do you work? Do you work around here? Awesome. Well, it's great to see you. I do my little historic tours in Baltimore. Very nice to meet you. Thank you. Baltimore people are friendly people. They are. It has an Eastern European look because that's who settled here. So my ancestors were Russian and Polish. There's Ukrainian community here. So yeah. But here in Fells Point, actually, this is where, if you were to talk about the the pre-revolutionary part of Maryland and Baltimore, with folks from England, and Ireland. The English and the Irish settled here and around this area as well. Well, thank you, Mini Jim. I appreciate that. I'm from Kazan, Russia, so the architects look, yes, 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 yes. So my ancestors were from Chakhanov or Shukhanov. Sorry if I'm not saying that correctly. And they came here. So yeah, so the horse you came, I said the horse you came in on, I'm so sorry. The horse you rode out on, there's the horse you came in on the, a few blocks down. So this is the horse you rode out on. I apologize for that mistake. There's two of them. This is the horse you rode out on. I will show you the horse you came in on in a moment. And I do apologize. That is one of the oldest operating pubs. I got myself a little confused. I saw a horse and I got confused. But here you'll see a mix of pubs and nice little shops. There's some new, chain stores here like Kilwin's, but mostly you'll see locally owned and operated shops. And again, so you see the artwork above that door? You'll see interesting artworks around all these buildings. Minium, yes, The Wire. I was also mentioning Homicide: Life on the Street, which was filmed right here. The Wire, also a David Chase production, filmed really across Baltimore. But yes, yes, and yes. Homicide: Life on the Street and The Wire are just magnificent. Folks out and about this morning, getting their coffee, getting their runs in, recovering from a night of partying. Hi, Foreign Warren. This is Fells Point in Baltimore, right on the harbor, right on the water. I think you also get a maritime feel for this area. So this was both a port and there was shipbuilding happening here. The famous Baltimore skipjack, which is a form of a ship, was built right here. Also, this is where during and before the War of 1812, the old defenders were assembling to try to figure out how to defeat the British, and they did. And they did in the War of 1812. This is where that was all happening. So Boston was doing its thing, Philadelphia was doing its thing. But during the War of 1812, it was really Baltimore that helped to save the nation. Now you see another ghost sign up there. Vote against prohibition. Absolutely. Absolutely. These bars, these bars were doing their thing. Now, our little local news company is getting ready for a shot here. This is a popular spot for a morning shot, and you can see I'm walking very slowly. These are the old cobblestones here, so walking super slowly. Morning. WBAL is one of our local news stations. This is a great shot, and it's a great shot at night when these street lamps are lit. Be quiet while she's filming over there. So this is, hi Space Face Rex, this is Baltimore. This is Fells Point in Baltimore. We're right on the water. We started over on the other side of Brown's Wharf over there. Oh, you can see that tugboat over there making its way. And now we're just making our way around the harbor, and then we'll walk through the neighborhood. As you can see, this is where the water taxis hang out. This is the Baltimore pier, what we knew as Recreation Pier, because although it's a hotel now, it's the Pendry Hotel now. You see that top floor where all those lovely penthouse hotel rooms are? That was just a flat roof with basketball courts and swings and a playground. That's where our recreation center, one of the recreation centers, was here inside this former processing center for the pier. And there was a playground up there, a big recreation center for kids. Then later, it became, for television purposes, it became a station of the Baltimore City Police Department. And this is where Homicide filmed. The television show Homicide: Life on the Street filmed here in this building, and then later purchased by Kevin Plank, I believe, who owns Under Armour, which is also across the water here. Other industry in Baltimore, Under Armour, headquartered here. But this is now the Pendry. This is a very chic hotel here in Baltimore. I'll step out here. This is a very chic hotel. We'll go across the street carefully. Oh my God, these cobblestones. And get a really good look at the hotel. I've not been in here. I'd like to go to the restaurant here once. Hi, Victor. Very nice to see you. Good morning, Anthony. Hi, Farn Warren. It is clean. It is clean. This area is anyway, because the ethnic communities are still here. Families that have been here for generations are still here, including my family. So they do take care of their neighborhoods. It's when everybody moves out, things tend to, and when it's just business that moves in, then they tend to not take good care. I'm gonna try to not hurt myself on these cobblestones. Okay. Yeah, that's a really good look. So the flag over there, the gold and black and red and white, is the flag of Maryland, and the gold and black is the flag of Baltimore. And you can see part of the flag of Baltimore incorporated in the flag of Maryland. And up there you can see that perhaps this building was built, completed, renovated in 1933. MCM, no, it's not 1933, excuse me, 1913. MCM XIII, 1913. I need to work on my Roman numerals. Is that a Cybertruck in the wild? It is. Where did we see it? Yes, it was. It was a Cybertruck in the, oh, it's over there. We'll go take a look at it. But nice little shops. The gift shop here. And as I mentioned, like these little artistic flares, there's always, okay, in Fells Point, you're always going to find a disco ball. There's disco balls in Fells Point. I don't know why. But these old historic buildings here, I'm going to cross back across the street because it's the only way to take a look. And there's your view of a Cybertruck in the wild. All right, I'm going to hang on to this step. Holy moly, these steps and cobblestones. One more look at the Pendry. I apologize for the bumpy video this morning. I don't have a choice. Advice to move there to live. So I find Baltimore to be a great walking city. Don't believe everything you see on television. There is crime. There is crime in every city in the United States. It is what it is. I think the public services are a little expensive. Water and electricity are kind of ridiculous. I love the sense of community. For me, that's why my family has been here for hundreds of years and will continue to be here. Also, being near the water, I think once you grow up near the water, you can't be too far from it. There's just something kind of, I don't know, unifying about it. So another look back across the street where we just were. These are some of the oldest buildings in this area. Especially this little grouping here, which we'll take a good look at from a distance. You see the taller 3-story, well, you see the 2-story Cat's Eye Pub, which is an absolute landmark here. I've not been to the Thames Street Oyster House. I don't think it exists anymore, but I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Cat's Eye Pub, this little 2-story with a little 3rd-story small attic-y room. And then this one here. And then these 2 little tiny ones next door. Little tiny 2-story homes. You'll see such small little residences here. Yes, Baltimore, this is Fells Point, Bradley. This is Fells Point. We are right on the water. So for those who live in this neighborhood, they get the awesomeness of a small ethnic community, still with a lot of Russian, Polish, Ukrainian, mixed with some Irish in this area. And then they get all the nightlife. They get all the bars, the pubs, the cool places to be at night. But then they also get some new restaurants. So here we've moved from the Brown Street Wharf to the City Pier. Next one over is the Ann Street Wharf. And here you'll see newer, little bakery cafe, little restaurant, the Vino Wine Bar and Shop over here. And this promenade that I'm walking on now, this goes all the way around the harbor. So where we were last week in Canton, you can walk all the way from Canton, along the water, all the way here, all the way to Baltimore's inner harbor, around to Fort McHenry, directly across the harbor here, where I'm pointing now. You could walk uninterrupted all the way around. And you've seen people here running, and runners take that trek every day. We'll do that on a future stream. We'll do the walk on the promenade, but today I want to look at the architecture. Hey, Abe. Thank you, Bradley. I appreciate it. Did they clean up that oil spill in the harbor? So this is, as I mentioned, our storm water, that just runs into the storm drains in the street, runs into the harbor. And so these booms are here to catch the trash that comes in. You can see it looks pretty clean today. There's also a mechanical device that I can't even explain it. The Mr. Trash wheel. We'll have to see it to believe it. It's kind of like a mill, one of those mill wheels that catches the trash, but they put googly eyes on it, big googly eyes. And so they look like people. They look like, I can't even explain it. Hello, duck. I don't like ducks. Yeah, it is clean, Who? It is. I'm impressed. And we started out our day, if you can see all the way across the water there, the Captain D, that boat is over there at the Domino Sugar Factory. And you can see the crane, I'm sorry, you probably can't, lifting stuff. Obviously lifting sugar to or from, because you can see the sugar. We'll walk down to the end here and then we'll come back up through the neighborhood. And maybe this is where I'll have breakfast today. Googly eyes do make everything better. Oh, answer you, Kudhari. Okay. What about jobs? Are there plenty of chances? Yes. Yes, yes, and yes. So Baltimore is just 30 minutes from Washington, D.C. and not too far from Northern Virginia. So jobs everywhere. My employer can't hire enough people right now. It's also easy. There's public transportation from Baltimore to Washington and vice versa via the MARC train, M-A-R-C. But there's plenty to do in Baltimore. Baltimore is the headquarters of Under Armour. Stanley Black & Decker, Domino's Sugar, McCormick Spice Company. There's a couple of others. I'm sorry. T. Rowe Price Investment Company. Can't remember all the rest, but there's a lot of business that is headquartered in and around Baltimore, and I do apologize to all the businesses that I have forgotten to mention. What's the pay rate here? I mean, it depends on the job. Depends on the job. You know, we have everything from minimum wage to super high-end technology. There are also a lot of technology firms here. We'll do a tour of Port Covington one day, which is a brand new community. It's not a historic community now. It's a historic area, but all the building there, all the construction from the Under Armour industry has grown up around Port Covington. And that's a really cool place to be. Great questions. Thank you so much. I drive through the Harbor Tunnel a lot for work now. Oh my gosh, so do I. And now since the bridge, when the bridge collapsed a few years ago, 2 years ago now? Definitely over a year now. I used to take the bridge, but now I have to take one of the tunnels. There's another good view of the pier. But this area is great if you're interested in this particular area, Fells Point. Now, I know you all can't see this, but at the very top of this street, all the way at the top of the street, the medevac helicopter just landed on the roof of Johns Hopkins Hospital. I failed to mention, and talk about jobs. As you all know, Johns Hopkins Hospital is the best hospital system in the universe. Hands down, no question. The amount of jobs that hospital center produces. So we have the entire hospital center here, plus all the associated medical facilities there. And then we also have the University of Maryland medical system, which is right up there with Johns Hopkins. People come from around the world to those two hospital centers. Tons of jobs there. Also our colleges and universities. We have Johns Hopkins University here, Loyola, College of Notre Dame. I'm sure I'm forgetting some. University of Maryland at Baltimore, University of Baltimore, my law school. Go Bumblebees. Yep, that's our mascot, Bumblebees. So lots of industry here. Lots of technology jobs here. Oh, Bradley. Well, thank you. Baltimore was named after Lord Baltimore. Oh, Bradley, now you're going to get me started. Because the original Lord Baltimore, poor old Cecil Calvert, never got to see Baltimore. He died. So he was granted Baltimore. He died before he got here. And then one of his sons took over as Lord Baltimore, and he died too. So it was really, I think, the third Lord Baltimore actually got to come to Baltimore and settled Maryland. So even though the grant was to the Lords Baltimore from the King of England at the time, who was George II. I don't know which George it was. It was not George III yet. But yeah, those grants went to the Lords Baltimore, but they settled Maryland. I think maybe George I, because they named Maryland. No, sorry. Now I know who it is. Charles II, because they named Maryland after Henrietta Maria. So unless I got this completely wrong, someone will correct me. Maryland was named after Henrietta Maria, which I knew that's correct, but I think she was the wife of Charles II. So then the Lords Baltimore came along, and the city of Baltimore was named after them, but the state is Maryland. It's really sad that these aren't gas lamps anymore. They were many years ago. They were. I'm glad that we kept the characteristic design but no longer gas lamps. This one here is a really good example, and it has the historic little plaque outside of it. This is 931 Ann Street, A-N-N Street. And this is a great example of some point in 1800s architecture. Now here you have a mix. You have a mix of those little teeny tiny homes that I showed you up on Thames Street. And then also these more grand, this would be considered a grand residence. So depending on what your job was here in this important seaport, if you were, you know, if maybe you owned a small little business, maybe a niche trade like rope making and sail making for the shipbuilding industry here, you might have had one of those little tiny 2-story homes. If you owned the shipping company, then you had a grand residence like that. And as I mentioned, during and up to the War of 1812, this was an organizing area. This is where people got together and said, you know what? We think the Brits are trying to take over again. And they knew it firsthand because the ships that were trading goods from this area were some of the ships that were being confiscated on the high seas by the British leading up to the War of 1812. And some of the sailors on those ships were being impressed into service by the British at that time. So the people here knew firsthand what the British were up to. And so they were organizing. And they were also organizing some counter strikes on the British. I think they're really mischaracterized as pirates today. There's a whole kind of pirate vibe here in Fells Point. But not really. I think they were more counter-striking the British. When the British attacked their ships, they attacked back. Hi, Stephen. George Washington was always everywhere. He was everywhere. They were a militia. Would you show yourself? No, I'm not going to show myself. Not today. Hey, AWOL. Great to see you, AWOL. There are, Bradley, in Washington, D.C., there are a few gas lamps, and around Baltimore, there are a handful too. And one of these days, I'm actually going to document where they are, because I kind of run into them. Now, interestingly enough, I don't see, so I said earlier that the horse you came in on was the oldest running pup. I can't find it. So I think the horse you rode out on may have taken it. We're going to have to do some investigating on that horse pup because something has changed. So I will put in the description of this video, because I hate giving wrong information. But of course, sometimes I don't find what I think I'm looking for. So when I post this video, I will put a correction in the description. Reportedly and historically, the oldest pub in Baltimore was the horse you came in on. And this one here at the corner is obviously some old architecture. Now we're going to go across the way carefully, avoiding the cobblestones. Okay, I mean, we must, I suppose we must be appreciative of keeping the cobblestones for historic purposes, right? Not so great when you're walking around the city. Super dangerous. And as you can see, the train tracks that also make their way up through the cobblestones make it for a really precarious walking situation. So just be super careful. Ladies, if you're working in Baltimore, keep a pair of sneakers in your car. High heels don't work in some areas. They're quite dangerous. Morning. So let's take a look at this beauty here, the Robert Long House. And you see that plaque a little, I'll get really closer here. The plaque that designates this residence as part of the Fells Point Historic District. And you can pull records of these facilities on the website for the National Register of Historic Places. And this residence here was built in 1765 by a merchant. This is the oldest surviving residence in Baltimore. Pretty cool. We'll go across the street and get a better look. But this now, if you've seen my walk through Georgetown in Washington, D.C., another wonderful historic and preserved neighborhood, their oldest residence was also 1765, 1766, so maybe 1 year older. The brickwork looks the same. It's called the Old Stone House. It's a mix of stone and brick, but the color, that green around the shutters, and that's fine. You can walk in front. That's fine. People live here. It's awesome. Around the shutters and the doors are very characteristic of that time period. So 1765, the oldest residence in Baltimore is the Long House and garden, maintained by the Society for the Preservation of Federal Hill and Fells Point. How wonderful. We won't go in there because there are people there just trying to chill and have a beautiful morning. But this is one of those beautiful green spots here in Baltimore. We talk about lots of green spaces in our cities on the East Coast of the United States. And Baltimore is no exception. Oh, big step. Baltimore has a number of parks. We'll take a walk through Patterson Park one day. I kind of consider that our central park, but there are others, and people would argue. There's Druid Hill Park, there's Clifton Park, there's Lee Park, whole bunch of parks in Baltimore. So you have this thriving industrial city dating back to the 17 and 1800s, but you also have green space, which is great. So that's a great look at the Long House. We'll take a little jaunt up this street. Here we do see a few of those white marble steps. Here in Fells Point, you don't see as many white marble steps as Canton, because for them, their doors were mostly like at ground level, which is interesting because it does flood here. So as we saw, we're right on the water. This is an area during Hurricane Isabel. This entire area was flooded. But we tend also to have brick, not a lot of form stone. And that one actually has a stucco facade, but mostly brick and painted brick, which is okay. Maybe just one or two form stone mixed in. Typical of the Baltimore neighborhoods, you also have the corner stores and the corner pubs, punctuated by a corner door. Many of them close now because the pubs are down on Thames Street or up here on Alice Ann Street. But now they're residences, but obviously they still have their corner doors. So these may have been shops. One would have been a pub on a corner. One would have been a restaurant. Maybe a dry goods store, a grocery store. Today it's a eyebrow threading studio, but they've kept the historic design around the door. Let me try to get to chat. I'm so sorry. I'm so bad at reading chat. So thanks everyone for saying hi. Hello, Steve and Lily. Hey, Lily, good morning. I'm glad you could join. Hey, Bradley. Maryland has a lot of variety to it. the trees. All right, let's see if we can get this helicopter, because I'm hearing the shock trauma copter taking off from the hospital. And I'll talk about that in a second. Oh, I can hear it. Where is it? Up this way. I'm always pointed in the wrong direction. There it is. There it is. Just for a minute. So I'll talk about shock trauma. So at the top of this street, it is really hard to see now because of the trees, is the main building of Johns Hopkins Hospital, which is the best hospital in the world. That's objective. It is the most advanced and most amazing hospital. People from all over the world come here. And I said shock trauma technically is at the University of Maryland Hospital, which is just down the street. But both hospitals receive helicopters from medevac flights from all over the state and even beyond the state of Maryland. So all day long, if you live in these neighborhoods, you'll hear those helicopters coming in and absolutely know that the people on them are getting the best care in the world, whether it's here at Hopkins or down the street at Maryland Shock Trauma, which is also the highest rated trauma center in the world. There's been television shows made about that. So I thought I'd just share. But back over, let's go over this side and take a look. So yeah, what was that? Whatever I was saying, I'm so sorry, Lily. I was saying hi to Lily. Hey, Lily. Hello, Faizan. Calligraphy. Oh, calligraphy. On my other channel, I have some fountain pen stuff going on there. Gotta have lunch at the seafood restaurant. There are a lot of seafood restaurants here. Yeah, flooding, Stephen. Yep, flooding here for sure. I'm the biggest fan of painted brick. Oh, not the biggest, but yeah. You know, for historic purposes, some decisions we have to make in preservation is to make sure the buildings are still standing. So while exposed brick is beautiful, painted brick protects a little more, but also there is something to be said for that, you know, being eye appealing. And I like a mix of exposed brick and painted brick. I think it just looks beautiful. Correct, Stephen. Some codes don't allow, absolutely. And there are probably lots and lots and lots of codes about everything from particularly the glass in the windows. For certain structures, you have to hunt to find the actual glass with the bubbles in it, you know, handmade glass from the period. It depends on what kind of easement or preservation code that the buildings are under. Some are extremely strict. What we're looking at now is the former St. Stanislaus Church. St. Stanislaus was the first Polish church established by the people in the Polish community in the 1800s here in Baltimore. The steeple is gone. The church is no longer a church, as Catholic churches across Baltimore began to close just because of low attendance, probably starting in the late 1990s and through today. The parish of St. Stanislaus was merged with St. Casimir, which is the church we looked at last week, the church with the gold domes in Canton. St. Casimir continued to thrive. They took on the parishioners from St. Stanislaus here, as well as Holy Rosary up near Patterson Park, and now combined with St. Elizabeth's Parish as well. So I'm really proud that my parish, St. Casimir, continues to thrive and take on the parishioners from the parishes that no longer exist. But it really speaks to the diversity of Baltimore. There was a time when, you know, there was a church on every block too. And you had Catholic, Lutheran, Methodist. Pretty much those are the big three. Catherine, Lutheran, Methodist, Episcopal here in Baltimore. And then they started to kind of collapse in when the population changed. And we have thriving communities of all faiths here in Maryland. and in Baltimore in particular. So St. Casimir continues to thrive. What's the church used for now? I don't know. Let's go see. Let's go see. Also was a grade school. When I went to school here, St. Casimir was the lower school, like grades 1 to 4, kindergarten to 4. And then St. Stanislaus was grade 1 to 4. St. Casimir was 5, 6, 7, and 8. So you took the little bus from St. Casimir to here, if you were in the lower school. And if you were in the upper school, you took the bus from here to St. Casimir. So what used to be the rectory is the New Century School, a progressive multilingual school. Oh, and I mentioned earlier that some homes were still wooden clapboards. And here we have those. And yes, they are painted in not so historic colors, but that is okay. So this home dates back to 1803. 1803 for these homes with the wooden clapboards. So St. Stanislaus Church today is a gym. It's the sanctuary body, or body sanctuary. Personal training, equipment, Pilates, massage therapy, acupuncture. So whereas St. Stanislaus served the soul, the church now serves the body. Interesting. You still got your statue up there, but there used to be a big wooden steeple. It was black with a big white cross here at the corner of Ann and Alisana streets. So we're just going to circle this block, make our way down Broadway, and then be done for today. Ben, good morning. I said rectory. Jesus. Abe, yes, rectory, where the priests hang out, where they're living quarters. Let's call it living quarters, okay? Can always count on you, Abe. McLean has a lot more green space than Baltimore does, for sure. It's one of the nice suburbs of Virginia. So here, obviously new construction here, but you can also see the lights strung across the sidewalk here. This is typical of a lot of, they're not turned on, I'm sorry, it's hard to see. But this is typical of a lot of Baltimore neighborhoods. It's fun, and it also provides some safety. Now across the way here, sorry, there's a car in the way. Wessex Pharmacy. So I've mentioned the characteristic white marble steps in Baltimore. Another characteristic of many of the shops and some of the homes is the stained glass above the transoms with either the name of the business, here it says Wessex Pharmacy, or the street number, 1736. Also, painted screens. Haven't seen one yet, but if I'm on the lookout for a painted screen, and that's another one of those for your Baltimore bingo card. Hi, Naveen. Nice to see you. It has that European feel because that's who settled here. Polish, Russian, Ukraine, Irish. This part of Baltimore being even older. So the English were here and the Irish were here, creating the shipbuilding industry here. Wooden ships, the Baltimore Clipper ships, the skipjacks, oyster boats. They made the ships here. There was industry around sail making and rope making here, as well as the transport of timber from other parts of Maryland to build the ships. There were also ironworks here. And if we go closer to the city, to the inner city, you'll see the ironworks, but who knows how old this is? Speaking of ironworks, there were ironworks to support the shipbuilding industry, but Baltimore also had ornamental ironworks, which you'll see in those gates and grates around the windows. And you have these little tiny alleys in between the homes with the ironwork. Hi, Kevin, nice to see you. I have no idea where they got the fiber for the rope. That's a great question. I don't know about rope making. It's still early here. It's 8:13. So these bars and restaurants are not open yet, except for the ones serving breakfast. So as we come down, when we get to Broadway, we'll see which ones are open. Across the way, we have an Italian pizzeria, which is also part of this building that says Louisiana on it, but I believe this is all one big restaurant over there today. I could be right here. We see some of the lights are on. Good morning, Kevin. I'm glad you're with us today. Old Records Wanted. It's your vinyl shop here. But here you see some of these lights are on. This makes it fun, even in the more residential neighborhoods. You'll see a lot of streets with these lights. Well, there's the first Starbucks we've seen today. Over there. What are you going to do? They're everywhere. So Broadway was a bit of a shopping district that grew up around the industrial, I'm using air quotes because it's not heavy industrial, but the industrial shipbuilding industry that was going on just down the street here. And from there, okay, this is going to be really loud because this is one of the main streets. So from there, I mentioned last week the markets. Last week we went to the site of the former Canton Market, and this is the Broadway Market, which still operates. We're not going to go up there because it's really hard to take video there because you're kind of up close. There's no place to get a distance shot. But the Broadway Market there, and then all of these shops on either side. I really want to tell those people not to go to Starbucks. Like, there's so many other local businesses to patronize and they go into the Starbucks, but that's okay. And then this too was part of the Broadway Market. This pavilion here, this is now the Chop Tank restaurant. And we'll go see that from the other side. This street is Alisana Street. And depending on the day of the week, just down there, just down the street, a few blocks, is the H&S Bakery. And depending on what day it is and what they're up to, the smell of bread here is intoxicating. As a kid and even as an adult, when I drive down this street, you roll your windows down. And here we can see, I'm going to stop in the middle of the street. Look, I'm going to let this car turn in. And we're going to do a little urban archaeology here, because here we see a paved road that's had its better days, but it's because of what's underneath of it. So we have a paved road with a railroad track peeking through. And over here, we can see the cobblestones underneath the paved road. So this is what we have to contend with here. But that's your urban archaeology moment for the day. I like this little stretch. So this one you can see renovated, cleaned up, probably a lot more modern construction incorporated into this building. And then next door, the public comfort station, the bathhouse, that's been here for a long time. I'm gonna guess late 1800s for that public comfort station. You can imagine what that is. It's public toilets. But then this little block here, Probably not smart for me to come out in the street. Nope. I'll wait. This little block here has a mix of styles. A real mix of old architecture on this block. And then here, another wooden, old building there. And I'm gonna get out of the street now. I'm being drawn toward the smell of bread. Being drawn toward the smell of bread. And there you can see we're heading into the city of Baltimore. The next neighborhood over is called Harbor East, which is probably the newest developed part of the city of Baltimore. It used to be, you know, some old warehouse type buildings in this area, probably old abandoned businesses, all apartments now, hotels, nice restaurants, great shops. We'll do that another time, but not so much history there. We are going to walk down this little street, and this is, as you can see, this is Bethel Street. We're at Bethel and Alice Ann. Hi, Daphne. Good morning. Good morning from Fells Point. These little streets, we've walked on enough big streets in Baltimore. These little streets have some of the most charming homes that you'll find in the city. They tend to be a little quieter. Hop up on the sidewalk. But this is Bethel Street, and you'll find some of these little streets all throughout the city. Beautifully preserved, lovingly cared for, with our little pot gardens, flower pot. I have to stop saying that. Flower pot gardens, container gardening. Let me try to remember to say that. Container gardening. If you don't have a backyard, you do with what you have, and you use your containers. How much do these run? These little homes, 700, 800,000, because it's kind of the cool place to be. When my parents bought their home, which was a 2-story with no basement, they paid $18,000 for it, but that was in the 1970s. And that same house probably would go for $500,000 now. Yeah. But I like that people want to be here. It's actually a good thing that they're expensive, because it means people want to be in the city. If they didn't want to be here, these would all be run down, right? So it's actually good that people want to be here. This one, so we'll get a sense for some of the dates. I'm going to be really quiet. 1790 for this one. So let me step back into this street. Now, was this all one home? Probably not. This probably was 2 separate buildings built in the 1700s. 1790. That's gorgeous. And it's quieter here on this little street. There are lots of places I say, oh, I'd love to live there. This is one of them. I'd love to live here. I would. It's quiet. I don't know where they park their cars. They have these little lots here, but yeah. We have 3 cars for 4 people in my family. That's the one problem here. This is a beautiful little quiet street. Oh, Abe, that's awesome. Now look here. Looky here. I don't know if this is historic or a reproduction, but look at that post box. That's beautiful. try to be super quiet and not impose on people who are living here. Obviously, these are their homes. But this is a nice respite from a busy, busy city to walk down one of these beautiful streets. This also probably looks very familiar and similar to what we looked at in Philadelphia. So Baltimore, Philadelphia tend to look very similar. But what distinguishes Baltimore are those marble steps. And you can see a set of those here. You don't really see those as much in Philadelphia, but you do see the brick, the federal style. I haven't said the word yet. Federal style architecture dominates this area. Simple brick architecture. With the new trend, actually with new home construction, sidewalk sale, Sunday, June 8th, here, okay, that's today. You'll notice brand new homes being constructed with the black frames around the window instead of white. I think that looks really sharp, especially with like the farmhouse style architecture. So that's a really interesting way that old architecture has influenced new architecture. Hello, Jaws. Nice to see you, even though you think this street is ugly. To each his own. This would have been a business. So we can see the garage here, the side entrance here. And as we get to the front, was this a store? Not sure. A little rundown, but we're so happy that these architectural examples still exist today. Sheep's clothing. Okay. I like that one. Cute. And here we have some more painted brick, some more exposed brick, and another little quiet residential spot in the middle of the city. Hi, Stephen. Am I a historian? I aspire to retire and be a full-time historian. So I am, but I also have a real job because, you know, being a hobby historian doesn't pay the bills. But someday I'll do this full-time. So this is the cemetery of the Fell family, for which Fells Point is named, and the family buried here. And you can see all the names, etc. But I'm not going to dwell on that. I'm really careful around cemeteries. Want to be super respectful. I publish studies on architecture. I participate in what are called one-place studies. And really as a way, you can hear these bricks are not are not in there. They're just loose. And so I started making these videos to log my research as a way of tracking where I was. That along with GPS coordinates and mapping myself on maps. And I'm not a real YouTuber, but people started watching my videos, so I'm glad to have you with me. I used to just make videos. I have tons and tons of film that I need to turn into full-length videos. But I would just publish my shorts to document where I was day after day after day. And I did a study on all of the embassies in Washington, D.C. And when I say all of the embassies, I mean all of them. And it took 2 years. And when I was at my very last embassy, I decided to go live. I hadn't planned on it, but I live streamed. And people actually joined me and participated in chat. I didn't think anyone would. but it was a lot of fun. And so that was the start of these little walking tours. I'll usually go live one day on a weekend, a Saturday or a Sunday, and one night. So this week I was in Washington, D.C. I think it was Tuesday. It was 90 degrees. And it was amazing. I had so many people on the stream asking questions. So thank you for joining me. Because otherwise I would just be walking through these neighborhoods and not talking. I would just be filming. But instead now I talk. And I get a few things wrong, so I apologize for that. We will follow up on the horse you came in on because I do want to know about that, so I'll put that in the description. But we're back to the Bond Street Wharf where we started. And we'll walk down to the water and we'll see what kind of action is going on the water. The birds are waking up and Baltimore is waking up today. So tell me, everyone, what's on your agenda for this Sunday? What's everybody up to? There's another view of the Ruckert sign. And what we call in Baltimore, unfortunately, we call it Thames Street. We know it's the Thames River in London, but we call this street Thames Street. Baltimore is known as the city that reads. So I'm sure if we're reading the word Thames, it should be Thames, but it's Thames. So back to the Bond Street. We'll go this way. The Bond Street Wharf. Another space nut is editing. Daphne's weeding the garden. Bradley's only 15 minutes from Baltimore. Abe is just mildly horrified for some reason. Stephen is studying the economy and watching LA riots. Highlander, good morning. Oh, Daphne, your grandparents on your dad's side lived in a building like that. The first floor was a pool hall. The business he owned. That's so cool. That's really cool. What city, Daphne? If you mind sharing, please, if you don't, that's fine too. I know, Abe. Thames Street. There's a lot to Baltimore pronunciation. I have to work very hard to catch my accent when I'm working in Washington, because in Baltimore we say Washington as Washington. Some people in Baltimore say library instead of library. I've never said library. Some people say water instead of water. It's a constant struggle, but charming nonetheless. Charming, charming, charming. Everybody, this is that promenade I was talking about. All the way from Canton, all the way to the inner harbor, all the way around Fort McHenry, and that's where everybody's running today. So we'll head back out on the water. Another look at that cool sign. Davyverse, hey. Hi, Ray. Great to see you. Hey, Outlaw, it's been a while. I hope you're doing all right. We are in Baltimore. Oh, hey, Bradley. Yeah, the Care First building. We'll zoom in there. That's what you see when you take any of the tunnels, the old tunnel or the new tunnel. That Care First building in Canton, which used to be the First Mariner Bank building with good old Ed Hale. That man was great to this city, and the city didn't treat him so well, did they? So that's the Domino Sugar Factory. And that ship is either giving or receiving sugar right now. And then there's part of the Under Armour campus. And then straight across is Canton. That is Clinton Street with all those big ships lined up over there. The Care First building. Little bit of the Canton waterfront. And then there's the city pier we looked at a few minutes ago, which is the home of the Pendry Hotel now, formerly Recreation Pier. And then here back at Bond Street Wharf. Well, Outlaw, I agree. It is your time to shine. Yeah, Davy verse Baltimore. Baltimore, hun. It's Baltimore. And here you can see, so here's some of the businesses. Franklin Templeton, Morgan Stanley, T. Rowe Price, Stanley Black & Decker, Under Armour, I've already mentioned. Domino Sugar, I've already mentioned. McCormick Spices, USF&G, Johns Hopkins, University of Maryland. Lots and lots of amazing businesses here in Baltimore. I took a pic in the same balcony Ed Hale did. Oh, up there, yeah. In that building. It's the Canton skyscraper. It's the only one we have. I think it's like, what, 15 stories, but for Canton, it's a skyscraper. But I'm glad that the historic neighborhoods do not have the tall buildings. So in Baltimore, the tall buildings are, you can't even see them because of where we're located. They're behind these buildings are the really tall buildings, just in the central downtown area, which is literally a 10-minute walk from here. But here you can feel like you're not in the busy part of the city. It's quiet. You've got a beautiful view. You've got benches. Oh, now it's getting windy. Sorry. Beautiful view. Depending on the day of the week, if this were a work day, you'd see a lot more action with tugboats and ships coming in and out. But here you can just see, I don't know if you can see, the crane on the left side is removing probably raw sugar from the Captain D, because that's the Domino Sugar plant right there. Makes your powdered sugar and your boxes of blue and gold Domino sugar. And here comes my Baltimore accent back again. It's all right, it's about time. Everyone, I hope, Orioles baseball, I know, so Camden Yards, that way. You can't see it. Orioles baseball, Ravens football. Crabs, steamed crabs, oysters, amazing seafood. So a work day. So this way, where I'm pointing now, you can actually get really close to the ships and you can watch the tugboats doing their things and the cranes doing their things. So one day we'll do that. My dad goes down there and photographs the ships. I hope everyone has, oh, Frank, you're from New Jersey. I keep trying to end the stream, but new people are coming in. I love it. It's not cold. Highlander, it's warm. It's overcast, but it's in the 70s. It feels great. Absolutely great. Well, thank you, Incognito. I appreciate that. Frank from New Jersey. Not too far from here. Not too far from here at all. You're a Yankees fan? It's okay. You know, we used to like really not get along with Yankee fans, but now the Red Sox fans are worse. The Red Sox fans are worse, but we like them anyway. We're good friends with Jay from Nerd Takes. He's a Red Sox fan, so that's totally fine. We get along. And right now, since the Orioles are so awful, you know, we can't talk about other teams because they're pretty bad. Oh, Highlander, I always take a picture whenever it's above 100 degrees in my car. I think 108 is the highest one. And also whenever it's below 0, I take a picture of my dashboard. So I have a collection of 106, 107, 108, and then 0, -1, -2 in Fahrenheit, of course. So yeah, I do have a collection of that. Oh, Daphne, thank you so much. 108, that's cute. Haha. I know. You guys deal with much hotter temperatures, we know. Well, Highlander, I know you saw yesterday. So the Wheel of Film gave me my pick, and I picked Highlander the movie. So we're gonna honor your nickname 2 weeks from now and review Highlander. All right. Well, now I am gonna end this stream because it's getting windier and windier. Oh yeah, Frederick, because you're closer to the mountains up in Frederick, which is also a great. We will do that as well. We'll do a walking tour in Frederick. We'll do Hagerstown, Sharpsburg, Keedysville, which is near Sharpsburg. I'm doing a part of a study there. So yeah, we'll have plenty of other places to visit. I really do appreciate everybody hanging out. It's hard to end the stream because I like chatting with you and hearing where you're all from. But I am going to end the stream now because it's a busy day today. Everyone have a fantastic week. Take care.